Ugliness isn't born, it's assigned. Beauty has always demanded sacrifice. Across time and cultures, bodies have been reshaped for belonging, status, survival. Scarification etched like sacred maps. Feet bound until bones bent to expectation. Lips stretched to signal beauty and place. From the outside, these rituals can look extreme, but within their worlds, they carry meaning, purpose, praise, community, even when they left scars that never truly faded. Today, the rituals haven't disappeared. They've softened. A discreet filler to smooth the lip line. A few units of Botox to hold time at bay. A nose refined so subtly you can't quite name the difference, only that something feels adjusted. The language is gentle now. Maintenance, enhancement, confidence boost, self-care. But beneath that gloss, a quieter question lingers. When does a small adjustment become a full rewrite? When does more confident slip into unrecognizable? At what point does self-improvement cross into self-erasure? That anxiety pulses at the center of The Ugly Stepsister. The film pulls us into a fairy tale kingdom of corsets and rigid hierarchies, a world that feels antique but uncomfortably familiar. Here, beauty isn't just admired. It's currency. It's survival. By reframing Cinderella through the so-called ugly stepsister's perspective, the film exposes the horror beneath the pursuit of perfection. Because whether the instrument is a tightening bodice or a needle filled with promise, the demand is the same. How much of yourself are you willing to carve away to finally be seen? And in The Ugly Stepsister, that question becomes painfully literal. We follow Elvira, a young woman who dreams of marrying a prince, not just for love, but for survival. Financial security for her family depends on it. But in this kingdom, love isn't enough. Beauty is currency. And Elvira quickly learns she doesn't have enough of it. It's only after her family moves in with her stepsister Agnes that the comparison begins to rot her from the inside. Agnes is everything the kingdom rewards. Long blonde hair, fair skin, a profile that looks carved for a portrait. Next to her, Elvira starts to see herself differently. But here's the thing. There's nothing grotesque about Elvira. She looks like a perfectly normal teenage girl. Mousy brown curls, braces, soft features. She's healthy. She's ordinary. She's painfully human. The word ugly only enters the room once someone else silently defines beautiful. And that definition doesn't just come from society at large. It's reinforced at home. Her mother doubts anyone will marry her. Authority figures echo it. What begins as subtle comparison hardens into certainty. She is lacking. It's only when beauty becomes a measurable, rigid standard, something she can fail at, that Elvira truly begins to unravel. And when someone she loves confirms her worst fear, insecurity turns into desperation. Desperation into action. Not because she's vain, because she's been taught that without beauty, she has no future. And then, as if the pressure wasn't already suffocating enough, an invitation arrives. The royal ball, 4 full moons away. 4 full moons to become desirable. Deadlines are powerful tools. In modern terms, it's the summer body, the wedding glow-up, the big red carpet reveal. Urgency makes extreme measures feel reasonable. For Elvira, it feels like hope. But it's the kind of hope with a deadline attached. The ball doesn't just represent romance. It fast-tracks everything. If she can transform in time, she might win the prince. She might secure her family's future. She might finally be enough. So the process begins. It starts innocently enough with the removal of her braces, something that was always temporary. But the appointment doesn't end there. Without pause, the doctor moves on to her nose. Her mother selects the new shape herself, speaking over Elvira as if she's customizing a dress. The doctor happily chisels away while Elvira cries out in pain, and her mother watches with a pleased smile. The procedure isn't framed as cruelty, it's framed as investment. This is what love looks like in a world where beauty is survival. And that's what makes it disturbing. Her body becomes capital, something to refine for better returns. To refine her further, Elvira is sent to finishing school, a place designed to package girls into something palatable. Somewhere between etiquette lessons and dance rehearsals, it becomes clear she doesn't quite fit in. Madame Von Dija, the dance instructor, is especially cutting, singling Elvira out for her weight and appearance. During rehearsals for the grand number at the ball, Elvira is quietly pushed to the back row. It's not simply mean-spirited. It's a public ranking of value. A girl with braces smiles at her in passing. A small, almost unintentional reminder of who she just was. Agnes, meanwhile, is called forward to center stage. Madame Von Dija barely has to correct her. She already embodies the standard. She already belongs. The humiliation she experiences there isn't just personal, it's institutional. Days later, the cast list is posted. Elvira's name sits at the very bottom, next to one that's been crossed out. Barely there, barely wanted. During rehearsal, Madame Von Dija cruelly invites her to attempt the lead choreography, only to stop her mid-step. She calls her wasted talent. Then, almost casually, reveals that Elvira's mother paid for her spot in the performance. Elvira is sent to the side in tears while Agnes is handed the lead. And that's what truly begins to harden inside Elvira. Not just the physical pain of reshaping herself, but the realization that natural beauty moves through the world differently. That Agnes earns approval without bleeding for it. For a fleeting moment after her braces are gone and her nose begins to settle into its new form, Elvira allows herself to feel hopeful. Maybe this will work. Maybe she finally stands a chance. But the people who uphold the standard, the ones who decide who is seen and who is sidelined, make it clear that even transformation has tiers, and Elvira is still climbing. And if beauty determines who gets to stand in the center, then the body becomes the next battlefield. At home, that pressure follows Elvira to the dinner table. She drinks water with lemon slices while everyone else eats, her eyes lingering just a second too long on their plates. The next evening, she's fitted it into one of Agnes's old dresses. It's too small. Later that night, Elvira stands alone staring at her reflection, trying to locate exactly where she's gone wrong. She decides the problem must be her body. And then, the solution presents itself. At school, Elvira meets with head Madame Cronenberg to discuss her progress. Agnes leaves the office just before she enters, and Elvira overhears the madam warmly tell her, "The prince will love you." It's effortless, assured. Inside the office, Elvira confesses her fear, that she simply might be unlovable. Madame Cronenberg doesn't dismiss her. She sympathizes. She praises her for already taking steps to bring her inner beauty outward. And then gently, almost maternally, she offers her something more. A tapeworm egg. Harm is reframed as guidance. That dynamic feels painfully modern. So many damaging beauty standards are delivered as empowerment, as wellness, as self-optimization. Weight loss isn't immediate. It isn't easy. But Elvira has been handed a shortcut by someone who seemed to understand her pain. Someone beautiful. Someone powerful. Madame Cronenberg should be nurturing her student towards confidence, not prescribing something parasitic and temporary. But to Elvira, it feels like momentum. Later that day, alone in the woods, Elvira swallows it with barely a flicker of hesitation. Because when someone you trust, someone elegant, composed, authoritative, frames something as help, it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels like guidance. On the surface, it's a grotesque weight loss method. but symbolically, it's doing much more. A parasite living inside her, feeding on her while making her smaller. It could be read as capitalism consuming the body, profiting off insecurity while promising improvement. It could represent patriarchal inheritance, a system passed down by authority figures that survives by devouring women from the inside. Or perhaps, it's internalized shame made literal, everything she has swallowed about herself taking physical form. When she returns home, she finds Agnes with the stable boy and immediately tells her mother. Rebecca erupts. The boy is sent away, and Agnes is stripped of her privileges, pulled from finishing school, and treated more like a servant than a daughter. And suddenly, the competition has shifted. With Agnes sidelined and a transformation quietly taking root inside her, Elvira feels, for the first time, ahead, ready. Or at least, closer to becoming the girl she thinks the world might finally love. And as the ball approaches, Elvira keeps going. 3 full moons pass, and Elvira's transformation is nearly complete. Her nose is healed into the shape her mother chose, and that alone feels like a victory. The weight begins to fall off, the tapeworm doing its quiet work, and she can still eat without fear. Agnes remains sidelined, reduced to serving in the same house she once moved through effortlessly. On paper, Elvira is winning. But beauty, in this world, is never finished. It's always one more adjustment, one more refinement. So she decides to complete the look with eyelash extensions, a procedure the doctor casually mentioned during her last visit, like an add-on service. She's strapped into the surgical chair again, almost excited this time. This is the final touch, the detail that will pull everything together. Then, the doctor gestures to his nurse, explaining she's undergone the same procedure. The nurse's eye is scarred, blinded. Elvira's smile falters, fear flickering across her face, but not enough to stop. He sews the lashes directly into her eyelids, leaving her temporarily blind while they heal. Temporary blindness becomes symbolic too. In pursuit of being seen, she literally cannot see. The parasite works as well. The weight drops, and the film makes a sharp point. Self-destruction often produces visible results. That's why it's seductive. But the cost accumulates quietly. That night, she lies in bed, stomach distended and aching from the parasite inside her, vision gone, body exhausted. She's scared, but she tells herself this is temporary. Pain is part of the process. Beauty requires endurance. And when her hair falls out as a side effect, panic sets in, her balding scalp not going unnoticed. While being fitted for the extravagant gown her mother paid dearly for, the designer pauses. He studies her. Absent-mindedly, he runs a hand through her hair and another clump falls free. For a moment, both Elvira and her mother look horrified. But horror never lingers long in this world. It's quickly replaced with a solution. The designer produces a long, blonde wig and settles it onto her head. Instantly, the image is restored. Elvira looks in the mirror and smiles. Because as her transformation intensifies, the stomach pains, the blindness, the fatigue, the hair loss, she learns something crucial. Every flaw has a fix. Not a cure, a cover. And each cover comes at a cost, both literal and physical. The wig doesn't stop the decay, it just conceals it. Just like the parasite doesn't make her healthier, it makes her thinner. Beauty here functions like a debt system. Every improvement accrues interest, and the payment is extracted from her body. It's finally the night of the ball, the night Elvira has been dreaming of for weeks. Elvira is physically deteriorating, but aesthetically refined and prepared. Her stomach twists in pain, but excitement edges through as she prepares to be presented in a room full of suitors and the prince. Her mother, in a cruel display of dominance, demands she show her paws and bark before escorting her into the hall. The suitors and the prince stare in awe. Madame Cronenberg takes full credit for Elvira's painful transformation. The finishing school's performance begins. With Agnes absent, Elvira has the lead. Her stomach gurgles and churns as she dances, but she pushes through, smiling, catching the prince's attention. For a brief moment, it feels like victory. She has been seen. That performance feels deliberate. The film equates femininity with endurance. Smile through the pain, dance through nausea, be desirable no matter the cost. And then Agnes enters in a blue ball gown, her blonde hair curled and her face veiled. The prince abandons Elvira immediately, drawn to the effortless perfection of her stepsister. Effortless beauty dismantles constructed beauty in seconds. This isn't just romantic rejection, it's the revelation that no amount of labor can outrun structural privilege. Elvira can carve and stitch and starve herself, but she cannot compete with someone who was born aligned with the standard. Elvira flees to another room, stomach twisting violently. Her mother follows, not out of concern, but out of self-interest, urging her to return to the ball because the suitors are waiting. Ignoring the black bile and tapeworm eggs in front of her, Elvira obeys, desperate to meet expectations. The hallucinations that follow, maggots, decay, distortion, aren't random horror flourishes. They externalize what's already happening internally. The rot was always there. The glamour just hid it. Then, from beneath her veil, Elvira sees Agnes. Agnes knows she's in trouble and flees, leaving behind a single shoe. The prince picks it up, declaring that whichever girl's foot fits the shoe he will marry. What should have been Elvira's shining moment is instead agony. Every procedure, every sacrifice, every ounce of endurance has led to nothing. Agnes's natural beauty still outshines her, and her mother, still focused on advantage and appearances, not the suffering of her daughter. Elvira is outraged. She has obeyed every instruction, endured every pain, sacrificed every comfort to please the adults around her, and all it has produced is decay and disappointment. Transformation, she learns, is never enough. Visibility and approval are not earned through suffering alone. Even perfection can be ignored. Knowing the prince will marry whoever's foot fits the shoe left behind, the narrative tightens into something inevitable. If smaller is better, if shrinking equals worth, then removing what doesn't fit becomes the logical conclusion of everything she's been taught. Alone with Agnes's stolen shoe, Elvira realizes it doesn't fit. Frustration and obsession twist into something darker. She begins attempting to reshape herself to meet the impossible standard. Pain becomes both method and punishment. The toe cutting isn't a sudden descent into madness. It's the endpoint of incremental self-erasure. By this point, Elvira isn't transforming into someone new. She's disappearing. What makes it even more devastating is her mother's involvement. The system that shaped her is now physically reshaping her. The violence isn't rebellious, it's compliant. Her younger sister Alma arrives at her screams, horrified, and so does her mother. But instead of stopping her, her mother intervenes in a way that's almost mercilessly pragmatic. Elvira's desperation is treated as something to manage, control, and, even when it harms her, used to reinforce obedience and beauty as survival. By morning, Elvira is broken, physically and emotionally. her body bears the consequence of her pursuit, weakened, bandaged, and struggling under the weight of her own transformation. Yet when the prince arrives, she forces herself forward, despite pain, illness, and exposure, only to stumble and fall. She falls down the stairs and her nose is smashed, undoing months of surgical refinement. The film makes a brutal statement. Constructed beauty is fragile. One fall and it collapses. Agnes passes by, flawless and untouchable, claiming the attention and admiration that Elvira sought so desperately. The prince's choice is clear. His affection goes to Agnes. Elvira experiences the culmination of weeks of pressure, jealousy, and manipulation. Alma steps in, not with judgment, but with care, helping Elvira survive what her mother and society's beauty standards nearly destroyed. Together, they undo part of the physical damage inflicted by both procedures and obsession, beginning a painful reclamation of her body. What remains is a body that has endured too much. Alma had been watching all along. She represents something radical, not beauty, not rebellion, but clarity. She sees the cruelty without romanticizing it. She isn't yet fluent in the language of inadequacy. When she helps Elvira expel the tapeworm, the symbolism completes itself. The parasite, shame, expectation, consumption, is dragged into the open. Cut. Killed. For the first time, Elvira looks relieved. Not beautiful, not chosen, relieved. And that distinction matters. Pain is beauty sounds harmless, like something you'd laugh about while breaking in a new pair of heels. But The Ugly Stepsister strips the phrase of its humor and forces us to confront what it really means. Pain isn't just discomfort. In this world, it's blindness, starvation, infection, self-mutilation, and worst of all, the gradual loss of identity. Elvira doesn't fail because she didn't try hard enough. She fails because the standard itself is insatiable. The closer she gets to it, the more it demands. Each alteration creates a new flaw to fix. Each fix pulls her further away from herself. The tools change, the kingdom changes, the corset becomes a syringe, the tapeworm becomes an algorithm. But the bargain stays the same. Suffer now and be worthy later. Shrink yourself into something more acceptable. Trade pieces of your body for the promise of love, security, validation. The horror of the film isn't just the gore, it's the recognition. The understanding that the pressure to reshape ourselves, whether it's physically, socially, or even digitally, is constant. And if we aren't careful, we might wake up one day as a reinterpretation of ourselves, sculpted by expectations we never chose. And sometimes, what we lose in the process is the only thing that was ever ourselves. When watching The Ugly Stepsister, not only was I genuinely horrified, like this is one of the most grotesque films I guess I've watched in a while. It's pretty brutal at some points. Anyways, not only was I horrified in all the right ways, I found myself weirdly emotional. I know not everybody will be able to relate to the messaging of this film, but as someone who could, there were moments where I felt kind of choked up as I saw my own reflection in Elvira. And I think that just attests to how well written and directed and produced and acted this whole film is. This is probably one of the best modern horror films I have seen in years now, and I love how much attention it has received. The messaging is very powerful, and it tackles a lot of different themes that relate to the real world. I specifically chose this theme of body alteration and societal pressures as I found it the most relatable, but there are other themes that I could see other people resonating with more. This movie has an appeal to a lot of different people, and I think that's part of what makes it so good. So if you've seen The Ugly Stepsister, let me know in the comments what part you found the most intriguing or which part resonated with you most, because there's so much to talk about with this film, and I would love to hear what you resonated with and what you think about the film. Thank you so much for watching. This was another really fun one to analyze, and I hope you enjoyed this. And I will catch you in the next one.